This is a study of chapters 7 and 8 of the book of 2 Kings. Chapter 7 detailing work of Elisha in the northern tribes in the capital of Samaria, and chapter 8 concerning the house of Judah to the south. Chapter 7, verse 1. Then Elisha said, Hear ye the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, Tomorrow at this time shall a measure of fine flour be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel in the gate of Samaria. Samaria, of course, is the capital of Israel, and this is a prophecy. They have been starving. The Syrians have them surrounded. Nothing comes in, nothing goes out. There's not a famine in the land. But in the last chapter, we heard that the head of an ass sold for an astronomical amount, and there's very little meat on it. And then a quart of chickpeas for a very high price. So Elisha is telling them prices will be back to normal. 2. Then a Lord on whose hand the king leaned answered the man of God and said, Behold, if the Lord should make windows in heaven, might this thing be? And he said, Behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but shalt not eat thereof. This Lord, small letter L, is a servant, and he has been sarcastic, and he has mocked Elisha. And 7:11, Genesis 7:11, tells us that we are not to mock God. And Elisha has told him, you'll see it, but you won't get to eat it. Number 3. And there were 4 leprous men at the entering in of the gate, and they said one to another, Why sit we here until we die? In other words, they're out there to beg. There's no one to give them anything. On the outside, the Syrians aren't going to give them anything, and from the inside, they have nothing. For if we say we will enter into the city, then the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit here, we die also. Now therefore come, and let us fall into the host of the Syrians. If they save us alive, we shall live, and if they kill us, we shall but die. So they have decided to take their chances in the army camp of the Syrians. 5. And they rose up in the twilight, early evening, to go unto the camp of the Syrians. And when they were come to the uttermost part of the camp of Syria, behold, there was no man there. For the Lord, L capital O capital R capital D, Yahweh, had made the host of the Syrians to hear a noise of chariots and a noise of horses, even the noise of a great host. And they said one to another, Lo, the king of Israel hath hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to come up on us. That would have been, the Hittites were to the north and Egyptians to the south, so they would have been surrounded and defeated for sure. 7. Wherefore they arose and fled in the twilight, and left their tents and their horses and their asses, even the camp as it was, and fled for their lives. So they ran, they left everything there. 8. And when these lepers came to the uttermost part of the camp, they went into one tent, and did eat and drink, and carried thence silver and gold and raiment, and went and hid it, and came again and entered into another tent, and carried thence also, and went and hid it. they've only gone into 2 tents. Now, there would have been a great many. So they were just at the outermost or the very outlying part of this military camp. Now they are going to think about the effects of this. Then they said one to another, "We do not well. And this day is a day of good tidings, and we hold our peace. If we tarry till the morning light, some mischief will come upon us, and now therefore come that we may go and tell the king's household." So they have decided that what they are doing is not right, and that they should go and let the king know that the Syrians have gone. So the siege is over if the Syrians aren't there to keep everything out and nothing in. 10. So they came and called unto the porter of the city, and they told them, saying, "We came to the camp of the Syrians, and behold, there was no man there, neither voice of man, but horses tied and asses tied, and the tents as they were." Now that porter would have been a gatekeeper by now. It's dark. 11. And he called the porters, and they told it to the king's house within. Those porters would have been the porters to the king's house. Well, how will Jehoram take this information? 12. And the king arose in the night and said unto his servants, "I will now show you what the Syrians have done to us. They know that we be hungry, therefore they are gone out of the camp to hide themselves out in the field, saying, when they come out of the city, we will catch them alive and get into the city." So he is saying, why, this is just a trick on the part of the Syrians. They have gone out and hid, and they're waiting for us to come, and then they'll get in this city and take it. 13. And one of his servants answered and said, "Let some take, I pray thee, 5 of the horses that remain, which are left in the city. Behold, they are as all the multitude of Israel that are left in it. Behold, I say, there are even as all the multitude of the Israelites that are consumed. Let us send and see." So he said, we'll send 5 horses, but not all. Now, 14. They took therefore 2 chariot horses, and the king sent after the host of the Syrians, saying, "Go and see." Now they took chariot horses. A chariot would have had 2 horses or 3, and they are going out with these 2 chariots to check out the information that these lepers have come to tell. 14. They took therefore 2 chariot horses, and the king sent after the host of the Syrians, saying, "Go see." 15. And they went after them unto Jordan, and lo, all the way was full of garments and vessels, which the Syrians had cast away in their haste, and the messengers returned and told the king. So the Syrians are running as fast as they can go. Clothing and anything they were carrying that slowed them, they cast down onto the ground. 16. And the people went out and spoiled the tents of the Syrians. So a measure of fine flour was sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel according to the word of the Lord. This has happened. Now, a measure of flour would have been a peck, and the barley in good times was eaten by animals, and in hard times the people ate barley themselves. 17. And the king appointed the Lord on whose hand he leaned to have the charge of the gate. And the people trode upon him in the gate, and he died as the man of God had said, who spake when the king came down to him. This is that same one who cursed God as he cursed Elisha. He made fun of God and mocked, and God does not like that. So he is dead. And it came to pass, as the man of God had spoken to the king, saying, 2 measures of barley for a shekel, and a measure of fine flour for a shekel, shall be tomorrow about this time in the gate of Samaria. So the famine is over, and he's going to repeat the happenstance of the man who mocked him and therefore mocked God. 19. And that Lord answered the man of God and said, Now behold, if the Lord should make windows in heaven, might such a thing be? And he said, Behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but shall not eat thereof. And so it fell out unto him, for the people trod upon him at the gate, and he died. This is a hungry mob running for food, and he was crushed in the press. Chapter 8 is a parenthetical chapter, and we back up maybe 7+ years. Remember that in literature of this part of the world, chronological order is not a literary custom that they uphold. Chronological order is a Western idea, and that sometimes makes it difficult to read the Bible because it jumps around in time. Chapter 8, verse 1. Then spake Elisha unto the woman whose son he had restored to life, saying, Arise, and go thou and thine household, and sojourn wherever thou canst sojourn, for the Lord hath called for a famine, and it shall come upon the land 7 years. Now, the Lord called for a famine. He will withhold rain. Crops won't grow, and when we have blessings and good things, we please God, but God will shake us up if he needs to. 2. And the woman arose and did after the saying of the man of God, and she went with her household and sojourned in the land of the Philistines 7 years. 3. And we know that this is not the famine spoken of in the previous chapter because it was not a famine of the land. It was a famine that only affected Samaria because it was encompassed by the Syrians. 3. And it came to pass at the 7 years' end that the woman returned out of the land of the Philistines and went forth to cry unto the king for her house and for her land. In her absence, squatters had taken over her property. 4. And the king talked with Gehazi, the servant of the man of God, saying, Tell me, I pray thee, all the great things that Elisha hath done. Well, from that verse, we know that this is before the healing of Naaman, the leper, and he offered money to Elisha in a previous chapter. And of course, Elisha cannot be bought, but Gehazi helped himself to part of it, and the Lord let Elisha know that that had happened, and the leprosy of Naaman fell on Gehazi, and he was white as snow. He was a leper in the last stages. So this is before that happened back in a previous chapter 6. And it came to pass, as he was telling the king how he had restored a dead body to life, that behold, the woman whose son he had restored to life, cried to the king for her house and for her land. And Gehazi said, My lord, O king, this is the woman, and this is her son, whom Elisha restored to life. That's that Shunammite woman who we learned in earlier chapters was a person of wealth. She built a room on her house for Elisha, and he asked if he could do something for her. She said no, she needed nothing. But he noted that the couple were in their last years and past the prime of childbearing, and they had a son. The son died of a heat stroke, and Elisha lay himself over the child, and his life was restored by God. So this is that woman from that earlier chapter, a Shunammite woman. 6. And when the king asked the woman, she told him. So the king appointed unto her a certain officer, saying, Restore all that was hers, and all the fruits of the field, since the day she left the land, even until now. So not only is she getting her property back, but she is getting everything that it produced over the 7-year period that she was absent. 7. And Elisha came to Damascus, and Ben-Hadad, the king of Syria, was sick. And it was told him, saying, The man of God is come hither. Damascus, of course, would be the capital city. And the king said unto Hazael, Take a present in thine hand, and go meet the man of God, and inquire of the Lord by him, saying, Shall I recover of this disease? 9. So Hazael went to meet him, and took a present with him, even of every good thing in Damascus, 40 camels' burden, and came and stood before him, and said, Thy son Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, hath sent me unto thee, saying, Shall I recover of this disease? This would have been a great lot of money and gifts for 40 camels to carry it. Now Elijah was told in 1 Kings that Hazael would be anointed king of Syria, that Jehu would be anointed king of Israel, and that he himself would anoint his replacement, who would be Elisha. Elijah accomplished only that last one, and the other two will be left to Elisha. And Elisha said to him, Go, say unto him, Thou mayest certainly recover, howbeit the Lord hath showed me that he shall surely die. So he is going to get over this disease, but he is going to die. 11. And this is Hazael. he settled his countenance steadfastly until he was ashamed. And the man of God wept. 12. And Hazael said, Why weepest, my lord? And he answered, Because I know the evil that thou wilt do unto the children of Israel. Their strongholds wilt thou set on fire, and their young men wilt thou slay with the sword, and will dash their children, and rip up their women with child. Elisha knows that Hazael will be used to chastise Israel because they would not turn from pagan gods. 13. And Hazael said, But what is thy servant, a dog, that he should do this great thing? And Elisha answered, The Lord hath shown me that thou shalt be king over Syria. Now Hazael is going to be greedy for power. So he, 14, departed from Elisha and came to his master, who said to him, What said Elisha to thee? And he answered, He told me that thou shouldest surely recover. He told part of it. He didn't tell the entire prophecy. 15. And it came to pass on the morrow that he took a thick cloth and dipped it in water and spread it on his face so that he died, and Hazael reigned in his stead. Hazael has murdered Ben-Hadad. Now the thick cloth would have been one very closely woven, and when he got that thick cloth wet and held it over Hazael's face, Hazael is sick and weak. Hazael could not breathe nasally or through his mouth, and he suffocated. He has been murdered. 16. And in the 5th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, Jehoshaphat, being then the king of Judah, Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, began to reign. Son of Jehoshaphat. Now, his son, the last 2 years of Jehoshaphat's reign, his son was co-reigning with him. And those two sons, that name, it appears the same in some places. Jehoram, one in Israel and one in Judah. 17. 32 years old was he when he began to reign, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. That would have been 2 with his father and 6 on his own. 18. And he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, as did the house of Ahab, for the daughter of Ahab was his wife, and he did evil in the sight of the Lord. And that wife was Athaliah, daughter of Jezebel and Ahab. And we learn in Chronicles, 2 Chronicles 21st chapter, that Athaliah suggested killing the king's brothers, or did have them killed, and she herself took the throne and reigned 6 years. 19. Yet the Lord would not destroy Judah for David, his servant's sake, as he promised him to give him always a light, and to his children. Light, lamp, the Messiah, descendant of David, is the light of the world. 20. In his days Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah and made a king over themselves. Now, Edom had a deputy king assigned to them by Judah, and the reason is that they could get tribute from Edom, but Judah had one port, Joppa, and then if they could cut through Edom, they could get to the Gulf of Aqaba, and that would give them access to those Tarshish ships to bring in wood and gold and what they needed. And these Edomites have seen a weakness here in this king, so they're going to revolt. 21. So Joram went to Zair and all the chariots with him, and he rose by night and smote the Edomites which compassed him about, and the captains of the chariots and the people fled into their tents. It sounds as though the Edomites fled from the way that verse is translated, but it is not the Edomites who fled, it was the house of Judah. Edom, the red nation, these are descendants of Esau. 22. Yet Edom revolted from under the hand of Judah unto this day, day of this writing. Then Libnah revolted, and at the same time. Now, Libnah, I need to explain that this is a priest city, and they did not revolt because they had to pay tribute. They revolted because of all the idolatry, and we do not learn the full story here, but when we get to 2 Chronicles, we will learn that Jehoiada led that revolt of these priests in that priest city. 23. And the rest of the acts of Joram and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? 24. And Joram slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and Ahaziah his son reigned in his stead. Now, I said that Jehoram and Joram actually had the same name. That's a little confusing, but you see, we have, that's in many languages. For example, the name Brian, Brian, could be Bryan. Other names are Johnny, Jonny, Johnnnie. So this is pointed out by scoffers as an error in the Bible, that he is called Joram in this part, but it is not an error in the Bible at all. 24. And Joram, and we also learn in Chronicles that he died of a terrible illness, so bad that his bowels fell out. In the 12th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, did Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, the king of Judah, began to reign. 26, 2 and 20 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri, king of Israel. 22 is, by the way, the number of disorganization. He only reigned 1 year, and it says that Athaliah was the daughter of Omri. Her actual father was Ahab. The Hebrew language has no words for grandfather, grandmother, great-grandfather. It's simply father, and she is indeed a descendant of Omri. 27, and he walked in the way of the house of Ahab and did evil in the sight of the Lord, as did the house of Ahab, for he was the son-in-law of the house of Ahab. And of course, we do know that Athaliah, the daughter of Ahab and Jezebel, married Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, and they had an affinity relationship due to this marriage. And we learn over in Chronicles that Jezebel was his counselor and taught him very, very well how to be wicked and to do evil. 28. And he went with Joram, the son of Ahab, to the war against Hazael, the king of Syria, in Ramoth Gilead, and the Syrians wounded Joram. 29. And King Joram went back to be healed in Jerusalem of the wounds which the Syrians had given him at Ramah. That's the same as Ramoth Gilead, when he fought against Hazael, king of Syria, and Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, went down to see Joram, the son of Ahab, in Jezreel, because he was sick. And that word sick should have been translated wounded. He was wounded. This video is an outreach of Essex Methodist Church in Essex, Missouri, and of the Crossroads Global Methodist Church in Dexter, Missouri.